Well, good afternoon. Another day, another camp, another woodland. I've been here before, many years ago, but only walking, never camped here. So, I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to go yet. But I thought for a change, I'll actually sort of film my thought process in finding locations. Who knows, that might work, it might not. I'll give you a quick look around. Now, I'm not sure how well you'll see sort of through the trees, but there's a field the other side. And on the high ground, on the ridge there's a little farm and 2 or 3 farm cottages. And that's actually where I've parked, up on that lane, that back lane. There's some beautiful pieces of woodland just as you come in here. But if, I don't know yet, but if I want a fire, obviously, direct line of sight of there, that is not going to work. Because no, you're not meant to camp in here. So I'm going to go a couple hundred metres up this track. I'm probably heading on my right somewhere. So there's a bit more woodland between me and them. Right, I'm roughly in the area that I fancy. Nice view out over the bluebells there. The only trouble is, there's a main path, I don't know if you can quite make it out, up there, which runs just round the back here. T-junction there, and continues down this side. The paths are just too close. So, still want to be roughly in this area. So I've stashed the bag and my jacket. You see him there, bottom of the tree? Hang on. Down there. Because it is quite warm. If I'm going to be wandering around for the next 20-30 minutes, I don't want to be lugging my bag everywhere. I'm going to venture off over in that bit. And also back in that bit. What I really fancied the look of was up on that bank up there in them pines. It looks really nice, really dense. But we've got a bit of an easterly wind, and it's blowing right over that rise. So it'll be a bit chilly up there, and it'll make my bloody smoke carry miles if I have a fire. So I really want to stay this west side of the ridge, more sheltered. Right, do some exploring. Again, lovely spot here, but I'm direct in line, you can see it through the trees, with the bloody farmhouse. If I lit a fire, it'd be like a bloody gas lamp in a desert. Because I'm right out in the middle of nowhere, the slightest bit of light really shows up. So I'm going to head over maybe that way. Ground dips away a little bit. Don't want to get too far into the dip because it'll be cold. But see if I can get some ground between me and the house. Right, after a bit of scouting around, I found a spot on the high ground, but there's a thick amount of trees and brush behind it on the windward side. So it's actually quite sheltered. I think that's where we're going. Time to grab the bag and lug it up there, which might be fun because it's really bloody steep. There is a sort of path, but it's a path that's been made by Mr. Badger, not humans, and it's really steep. So no filming while I'm climbing up there. I'm going to need to see what I'm doing, and probably my hands to get there as well once I've got the bag on. And we have landed where I was scouting about to start with, and where I dumped the bag. It was down in the bottom there. You can see the bluebells through the trees. The only nearby house is that farmhouse, and well, as a crow flies, that would be about there. It's the opposite side of the valley, so even sort of like direct line of sight. I've got all the thick tops of the trees between me and it, and about half a mile now, so the fire won't be the issue. So I had the narrow strip of woodland, a footpath, that big bluebell section, then another footpath, up a 10-foot bank with a bit of a scramble. all set up. It was a bit of a challenge, to be honest. The ground is the flattest piece I can find. It's still a bit all over the place. And because the backwards bungalow has got many pegging out points, you adjust one and it puts all the others out, not helping by the slope and the twist in it. But it's good enough. At least my bed is fairly flat. It's horrible if you're on a bit of an angle and you find yourself sliding off sideways in the night. I think I'll be all right. Inside the accommodation, nothing new. I've kept it quite simple. Nemo sleep mat, the Dura 2 sleeping bag, flex tail pillow, and I've just got my padded jacket bundled up in the corner in case I need it. I don't think I will. I've got the sun on the tent. It's going to warm it up a fair bit to start with. It's going to be down to about 5 degrees overnight. I am further inland, so it's always that little bit chillier, but that should be fine. Right, this is immediately behind where I'm camping. It's pretty thick. No footpaths or anything like that. Overgrown brambles, so no one's going to be coming in through this direction. If I turn you right round, the other side of this fir tree, if I duck down, you'll probably better see it. Sorry about the sun. That's where the tent is set up there. But it's only a small patch of ground and there's no flat ground out the front of it. So what I'm thinking is there's a decent sized flat area back here. I think this is where I'm going to set up myself for the evening and probably have a little fire, because I've got this rise here and there's a big drop down to the footpath. Not that anyone's going to be in here at night, but you know, be on the safe side. And the nearest house, that farmhouse, is directly the other side of this evergreen. So, you know, just to be on the safe side, I think this will be the best spot to have the fire. And there's also a lot of deadwood kicking about, so picking up some fuel for the fire would be no hardship. I could have brought the tent back in here and set myself up, but I haven't got the view, and I wanted the view. The ground's quite wet, so it's not going to be a problem having the fire direct on the floor. No danger of catching the ground alight, shall we say. It'll be fine. That's some firewood sorted out, all scavenged off the floor, no saw or knife used, just using, shall we say, the laws of physics and a handy little notch in a tree. Well, all the jobs are done. Shelter's up, bed is in, firewood done. Not much more I can do now for the time being. So I'm going to have my can of beer that I brought with me. Just the one, of course. because it's a solo and I've got to drive out of here if something goes wrong. I know I keep banging on about that, but it is quite a serious point. I like a few beers when there's others around. But when you're on your own, you are responsible for you. Cheers. Well, it's a lovely spot. I've forgotten how nice this woodland is. I walked in here, I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when the first lockdown started. Because lockdown or not, I wasn't staying indoors. And let's face it, if there's something about a virus or something you can catch, where could be safer than in the middle of nowhere where there's no people? So I was out every day. But yeah, I remember bits about this woodland, but I did an awful lot of walking in that time. So I never camped in here. But what a cracking spot. And apart from, the odd aeroplane going over, it's just birdsong. Oh, and a bit of movement over there somewhere. There is deer in here. I've seen some deer trail as I came up here, and in fact there's a game trail about sort of 15 feet in front of me that runs left to right, more or less across in front of my tent. That'd be a nice surprise for somebody, them or me, in the middle of the night. But so yeah, might see some wildlife. Bonus if you do, no big deal if you don't. But yeah, what a lovely quiet spot. I can just about hear the faint hum of the traffic if it's really quiet. Because I'm not a million miles away from the main road, the Hastings to London, A21. Very busy route, and of course it's bank holiday weekend, so yeah, everyone's going to head to the bloody coast. There'll be chaos on that road, especially on Monday. But the road is probably a couple of miles from where I am, something like that, maybe a bit more. And I can just about hear it if I concentrate, which is pretty damn good. Because anyone else that lives in the southeast will tell you, no matter how pretty and how nice an area is, there's always a little bit of traffic hum in the background somewhere. There's just so many roads, it's just such a busy area. And that's why I really appreciate places like this. Enough waffling. Well, I fired up the meths burner, to have a brew, but also a bit of a sort of test burn. It wasn't until I was just, packing before I come out that I realised I was a bit short on meths. I had hardly any left. So I've gone with a sort of 50-50 mix of that and white spirit. And, white spirit doesn't really work in these stoves, but I was just hoping it was flammable enough to do the job, and it seems to be. So that's a bit of a result. Otherwise I'll be having a cold dinner, especially since I've gone to the effort of actually getting proper stuff to cook. That'd have been a real bummer if the stove wasn't going. I'd have to do it on the edge of the fire, which is a bit difficult with a frying pan when you haven't got the other kit to rest it on. But yeah, it seems to be burning. Cheers. When you're in a new area like this, I think it's an advantage doing it solo. When there's two of you, you're busy chatting, collecting firewood, that sort of thing becomes a joint effort. When you're on your own, you take your time, or at least I do, and just sort of like sit and tune in, if that makes sense. you're able to get a better impression of what the place is like. Now, generally speaking, here I can only really hear birdsong. I can faintly hear the traffic over to my left, but that's a couple of miles away, so it's no big deal. It's one of them things you don't really hear unless you concentrate on it. And I'm occasionally hearing voices, you know, shouts, kids, that sort of thing, sort of behind me, long way off. And that's partly because this is Forestry Commission, this site. It's a big one. But the top end of it, right up there, where the road is, there's a big car park. And of course, most people don't go that far from their cars. Even like the avid walkers tend to sort of walk around in a loop back to their car. The dog walkers, people out with the kids, that sort of thing. So really they're in the top half of the wood, which is why I, of course, come to the bottom half. I'm not antisocial, honest. But for something like this, I don't want kids screaming and dogs charging into the camp trying to steal my food and all that sort of thing. That's not what it's about. It's about spending time in the woodland with the woodland, not all the other distractions that I can get on a daily basis living in the town. So yeah, been sort of just sitting here for about half an hour, tuning in. I think that's a good way to describe it. And so far, I like it. Cool, bugger, that's still hot. I'm down on the main path, and lovely view to my left if we look there. I don't know quite how well that comes across on film, but the whole of that section of woodland is just a carpet of bluebells. But the main reason I came down here was to check out, you know, the campsite, as it were. Now, if I tilt you up there, I mean, I can make it out with the naked eye. Just to the right of this largest tree there, you can just about make out the sort of the straight edge of the top of my tent. But to be fair, unless you were actually looking for it, you're not going to see it. And as soon as it gets dark, of course, it will just disappear, because no one's in here at dark when it's dark, apart from people like me, of course. I'm quite happy with that. And where the real thick growth is there, and then there's a thick fir behind it, that's where I'm going to be with the campfire and sort of cooking area. So it's even more shielded. Shouldn't be a problem. Well, they're done on one side. They're a good half to 2/3 done. Bunging some garlic mushrooms I prepared at home. Get them warming through, and that should do nicely. While dinner was cooking, as it is still, I heard a dog bark over there down on the main path. I just sneaked around the side of this tree round towards where the tent is, just to, you know, have a look, see who was about. And I see what he was barking at. There was a couple of deer just over the crest of the hill there, and you could see him sort of like panic. They didn't know whether to run that way because of the dog or this way because of me. So he sort of like went round and round for a bit, then bolted off through the woodland. So yeah, there's plenty of wildlife in here. Right, sun's going down. I've got about another, quick measure, 30 minutes, something like that, before the sun's down. dinner's done. So I'm going to dish that up and eat that. You don't really want to watch me eating. Not the most pleasant things to see. So I'll dish up and get that down me before it gets dark. Right, well, it's dark now, so I'm just having a last coffee before turning in. It's not late, it's about 9ish. I've got my Kindle with me, so I think I'll turn in, get myself comfy, get warm in the old sleeping bag, and do a bit of reading. Been a pleasant evening. Had another deer come almost into camp, over that way, probably 15-20 feet away, then saw me and panicked and run the other way. And then just over the valley there, big dog fox, real big bugger was. He looked almost like a Labrador from here, barking his head off as he walked all the way along the path there. He must have known I was here, and he was not too happy about it. But never mind, he's got to learn to share. See you in a bit. Got a little half moon peeping through the trees. A few stars appearing as well. It's gonna drop chilly. Oh yeah, can you hear that? It's gone quiet now. There's someone with some fireworks somewhere. Off to the, where would it be? To the west of me. Don't know who that'd be, but I'm guessing it's because it's bank holiday and all that old tosh. Quite why we need fireworks for everything nowadays, I really don't know. Fireworks night, bonfire night, that's fine. Maybe New Year's Eve. But it seems that almost every bloody weekend now. All zipped in and keeping warm. Time for a bit more reading. Not much longer though, because I'm getting tired now. It's about 10ish. But yeah, a bit tired really. So yeah, a few more chapters maybe, and then it will be bedtime. So I'll see you in the morning. Good morning. And it is a good one, from what I can see. Just starting to get light. A little bit misty foggy. But it is early. Oh, it's only just after 5. But oh, I've had a good sleep. It was comfy. And it's no bad thing being awake a bit earlier, because it's bank holiday weekend, and if I leave it too late, the traffic going back into town will be very busy. So I think I'll put the kettle on and have a cup of coffee while I'm still in bed. And then start sort of tidying up as soon as it gets proper light. I think that's the plan, unless I go back to sleep. But I don't think so now. that's it. I'm all packed up. Everywhere's clean and tidy. I've covered over where the fire was, put the leaves back and so on, so it doesn't show. Nothing here to see apart from a bit of flattened ground where the tent was. As you can see, sun's full up. Time to walk out. It's still very early, but I want to beat that traffic. See you on the next video.